Hello and welcome to Team Liquid's strategy guide series for Nerub-ar Palace. I'm Aya, and today I'm presenting Telegon's breakdown of the mechanics and strategy for Heroic the Silken Court. This fight consists of 3 main phases divided by 2 intermissions. Stage 2. Clash of Rivals introduces us to Nerub-ar and Skein-Spinner Takaj, the 2 bosses featured in the encounter. The primary mechanic in this stage is Reckless Charge, where Nerub-ar charges towards Takaj. To counter this, 2 players must create binding webs. To create binding web pairs, 1 player must come into contact with the glob of webs within the center of a web bomb puddle, while their partner is also within the web bomb radius. This will create a binding web between the 2 players, which can then be used to trap Nerub-ar during his charge, stunning him and increasing his damage taken by 50% for a short duration. Takaj will often throw out sets of web bombs, which create patches of webs that slows players and can bind 2 players together. This ability selects range players, and as a result, may be baited to ease positioning requirements. Additionally, Takaj will periodically cast Venomous Rain, debuffing several players. Upon expiration, debuffed players explode for a small amount of nature damage. These players should move away from others to avoid accidental cleaves. Call of the Swarm summons adds called Shattershell Scarabs, which start with an 80% damage reduction that decreases over time. Focus on controlling these adds and mitigating their impact on the raid. In this phase, positioning is key. Ensure you are placing and using web bombs intelligently. Avoid extraneous damage from Venomous Rain, and make sure players are prepared to create binding webs to stop Nerub-ar's charge. Also make sure that you are always aware of your positioning before Nerub-ar casts his frontal. Any player caught in that mechanic will become impaled until their spike is killed. Section 2. Intermission, Void Ascension. As Takaj reaches 100 energy, the encounter transitions into Void Ascension. Here, Takaj teleports to the center of the room and shields herself, absorbing damage while casting Entropic Barrage, which deals shadow damage and increases players' vulnerability to subsequent hits. The raid must focus on breaking the shield quickly while avoiding patterns of exploding webs around the boss. Be prepared to quickly find safe spots while taking moderate raid-wide damage during this phase. Section 3, Stage 2, Grasp of the Void. In Stage 2, Grasp of the Void, the intensity ramps up. A new mechanic, Stinging Swarm, becomes a major threat as it increases damage taken by the affected players and jumps to the nearest player when removed. At 3 applications, the target suffers from Stinging Delirium and loses all applications of Stinging Swarm. Stinging Delirium causes the target to take 75% increased damage and become disoriented for 15 seconds. If it jumps to Takaj, it dissipates after 12 seconds, but if stacked 3 times, she will also become disoriented and become vulnerable. This interaction is critical for preventing a successful cast of Cataclysmic Entropy, which, if allowed to resolve, would almost certainly cause a wipe. Web Vortex will pull all players towards Takaj, binding pairs of players together. Break these bindings strategically to avoid excessive damage and maintain control of the fight. Note that Takaj gains a frontal mechanic in this phase called Strands of Reality, which should always be avoided. Section 4, Intermission, Raging Fury. When Nerub-ar reaches 100 energy, he will cast Spike Storm, shielding himself and causing spikes to explode out of the ground in circular patterns. These ground effects should be dodged to prevent becoming impaled. Similarly to the previous intermission, all players will take ramping damage until the shield is broken. Finally, Stage 3, Unleashed Rage, combines all previous mechanics with increased difficulty while evolving Call of the Swarm into Unleashed Swarm, which no longer summons adds but deals heavy raid damage instead. In this phase, web bombs do not exist. As a result, you'll have to save 2 pairs from Web Vortex to stun the boss during Relentless Charge. Make sure to maintain your strategies from previous phases that deal with the charge and dispels. For role-specific tips, tanks, manage taunt swaps effectively, especially during Piercing Strike. Keep bosses within cleave range when possible, and position Nerub-ar to maximize the effectiveness of binding webs. Recall that the Takaj tank will require a Poison Dispel, and you should be swapping bosses on 1 or 2 stacks of Piercing Strike. The Takaj tank will also require Magic Dispels in the 2nd and 3rd phase. Healers. Coordinate cooldowns for both intermissions, Web Vortex breaks, and Unleashed Swarm. Prioritize players debuffed by Stinging Swarm and maintain constant awareness of dispel ordering in both Phase 2 and 3. DPS. Focus on major mechanics like Stinging Swarm and Reckless Charge. Stagger web pair breaks after Web Vortex to avoid overwhelming healers, and optimize your cooldowns during damage amplification phases. Do not allow yourself to be meleeed by scarabs, and focus on dodging any of the numerous frontal or ground mechanics. Let me translate that into something a DPS player will understand. No stand in bad. Make healer life easy. Okay, back to the guide. Avoid common mistakes. Failing to manage web bombs and bindings to stop Anubarash's charge, assign players to handle web bindings properly to prevent wipes. Ignoring ad management. Prevent deaths from fixated scarabs. Improper dispel management. This can cause disorients, deaths, or even raid wipes. Assign a clear order for dispels and consider using Weakauras for efficient management. Remember in Phase 3 to save at least 2 web pairs after web vortex to stop reckless charge. Frequent and effective communication will be absolutely crucial to downing this boss quickly and efficiently. As always, we'd like to remind you that this guide is based on data and observations gathered from pre-release testing environments. This information provided may not fully reflect the final state of the raid encounter, as adjustments and changes can occur before the official release. Use this guide as a reference, but be prepared for potential differences in mechanics, tuning, and strategies when the raid goes live. Any significant changes will be noted in the description of this video. We hope you found this guide useful. Please feel free to leave feedback or commentary below, and keep an eye on the channel as more guides are going to be coming out soon. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one. Bye!